Okay. Now, the mitochondria, when it produces energy, it creates a lot of free radicals for itself. So nature has designed an antioxidant that neutralizes the free radicals, and the master defender is glutathione. So this is one molecule that is not only an immune booster as an antioxidant, it is also a detoxifier. This is another molecule that we make. This we make. If you have enough of the amino acids, you will make. But the problem is we don't make sufficient amounts to meet the demand. Why has the demand increased? If you are under stress, you need more glutathione. Most of us don't know how to handle our stress nowadays. That's a sad part. And if you have a high carbohydrate diet, the sugar and insulin will deplete your glutathione inside the cells, making your mitochondria vulnerable to damage, and less energy means disease. Anybody who does not produce enough energy inside the cell is more prone for illnesses. So everything depends on energy, as I mentioned. And there are many other reasons, because the water is polluted, air is polluted, our fruits and vegetables are laced with pesticides and chemicals. They all need to be detoxified. And who detoxifies, or what molecule detoxifies these toxic agents that we put into our body from very many variety of sources? Glutathione. So this we become deficient because of the demand. Okay. Heavy metals also deplete your glutathione. So dental fillings with amalgams, fluoride in the toothpaste, all these deplete your glutathione levels. Okay. Now, of course, there is another very important point, that we don't get enough vitamins and minerals from our fruits and vegetables. The reason is because the soil is very bare. And the worst thing is when they add pesticides to the soil. So these pesticides actually hold back whatever nutrient that the plants can absorb. So the vegetables become nutrient deficient. So they look green and healthy because of every other things that is sprayed onto them. Basically, they are deficient. So when you eat the vegetables, you are not getting enough, especially one of the most important nutrient that you should get enough from vegetables is magnesium. Universal deficiency. Almost everyone is deficient in magnesium. So every one of the top important points that I've mentioned, we can always cover in the subsequent webinars. So please remember, if you want to live healthier, first learn how to prevent your disease. Number two, get advice how to reverse your disease. Okay. So the treatment should be for medical practitioners. Of course, there are doctors here as well. But this is just a very general discussion to help mainly common people. Medical doctors have been, those who have been with me and Saham, they have been trained so well that when I had speakers from overseas this time, we had 8 webinars. All of them were actually pleasantly surprised by the questions that the participants asked them. So that's because we have spent a lot of time in the last 11 years in teaching and training. For those who are non-doctors, if you are looking for a doctor who's trained in integrative medicine in and around your area, you can always go to our website, Saham, and search for one who has been trained and certified by Saham. So these are doctors who have been trained in integrative medicine, where we try as much as possible to rely on natural solutions. Because these doctors have been trained to recognize the underlying cause of a disease and fix the disease. So we don't talk much about drugs because they address only the symptoms. So this is in general why we are facing this pandemic. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, they will keep coming. It's just the definition of whether it's going to be a pandemic or an epidemic. You can't prevent. What you can do is to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Okay, so the floor is open to questions.
Dato', we have one question. How to reduce the side effect of COVID vaccine if my job requires vaccination?
Okay, there are a few things that can be done. Vitamin C is a universal antitoxin, and high dose, if it is given immediately after a spider, even snake venom, it can neutralize. So vitamin C is an antioxidant, it's an immune booster, and the beauty of vitamin C is because it can diffuse very easily into every part of the body, and it acts as a neutralizing agent. It's an antitoxin. So if you want to prevent the side effects of, say, for example, chemotherapy or radiotherapy or even vaccination, you should take enough vitamin C. That means if you are, say, taking 3 grams or 6 grams a day of vitamin C, my advice would be to start taking a higher dose 1 or 2 days before, and keep taking the higher dose for the next few days after the vaccination. So because vaccine, some of you could be allergic to vaccine. Some of you will have mild reaction. Some of you can have a little bit more disturbance. So if you want to prevent all this, then a higher dose of vitamin C is important. The second one that you want to consider is also vitamin D. A higher dose will usually be sufficient, will be required. Glutathione is a master that we all need to pay attention to. And so these are things that you can do to prevent. And remember what I told you. If you want to spend your energy in optimizing your effort to fight infections, or when you're taking something you are not feeling well, please cut down on the food. Rest, sleep, drink adequately, eat simple food only when you are hungry. Simple food, like a porridge, maybe. Only when you're hungry. If there is no hunger, don't force yourself. It's better to fast during illness than to eat. Any more question, Yamuna?
Yeah, Dato', vitamin C, how many mg is recommended? What's the recommended dosage in a day?
Okay. I mentioned to you, how do we understand the need for an adult dosage? One is by assessing the amount of vitamin C is in the native diet, and also looking at animals, how much they make. And also another way of finding out a standard dose, average standard dose for adults would be, you give enough vitamin C to an adult, and assess the dose at which they get diarrhea. Because vitamin C has no side effects, no toxicity, even in extremely large doses. If anybody has told you that high dose vitamin C causes kidney stone, they simply don't know what they are talking about, or the intention is not to tell you the truth. So it has no known toxicity even at very high doses. So if you give 10 grams or more to an adult, usually you get diarrhea. The reason why you get diarrhea is that's the maximum that body can absorb. So if you go by these means, an average recommended dose for good health for an adult would be 6 to 10 grams a day. And so how much children should take? From very young age. Actually, since because we do not make our own vitamin C, even newborns need vitamin C. They need it inside the mother's womb, and they need it when they are born. But they generally don't need to take, because breastfed babies will get sufficient, provided the mother takes sufficient amounts. And then from the time they eat, they start to eat the solid food from 6 months. You can give a small dose. Generally, this might be shocking information to most of you. So what is the recommended dose? You see, vitamin C in very high doses have been used from 1940s to treat various illnesses, including polio. So they have had 100% success. So most of the information that I'm giving you is from the giants or the brilliant minds who have done so much of work on all this. So it was understood, and I still practice this. This is what I recommend patients. At the age of 1 year, they can take 1 gram, not milligram. 2 years, they can take 2 grams, and so on. 5 years, 5 grams. And by the time they reach 10 grams, they take an adult dose. So average healthy dose would be 6 to 10 grams. But there is a secret to how vitamin C can help you when you are facing an infection. Say, supposing you have an acute poisoning, you have infection, the principles of vitamin C. Again, I'll go into the details when we talk about vitamin C, just to give you the principles. Rule number 1, start the treatment soon enough. That means vitamin C treatment, higher dose must be started as soon as you know you are coming down with an infection. So soon enough, dose must be high enough. So the initial dose itself is preferably double or triple the dose of your regular intake. So if you have been taking 2 grams, the moment you know you are coming down with an infection, you should take 4, even 6 grams. How do you know that you have taken enough or more? Is because if you don't get diarrhea, simply the body is telling you simple message that it wants more. If you have taken enough, you'll get diarrhea. So soon enough, high enough. Okay. The third rule is frequent enough. So usually we take 3 times a day. Vitamin C is better to take 3 times a day. Unless you are using a liposomal vitamin C, because vitamin C has got huge benefits, and you can get always rely on a good supply. You need to get a good quality vitamin C, and they are very well absorbed. But the beauty of having a liposomal vitamin C, which simply means putting a layer of phospholipids or fat around the vitamin C molecule. And why is that this is done is because it enters the cell without any effort or a transporter. There is no medium that is necessary. It just goes straight into the cell, and it enters the cell very much faster. So it's very fast. So you need a smaller dose, much smaller dose, and you need only twice a day. Or at the most, people who want to take optimum dose, they can take 3 times a day. But twice a day also is sufficient at probably 1/4 of the standard dose. So this is the liposomal vitamin C. So the coming back to the third rule is you must take more frequently. So soon enough, high enough, frequent enough. That means your dose of vitamin C, whatever dose that you require until you get diarrhea, you must take every 2 to 3 hours. 2 hourly is even better. So if you get diarrhea, you can either reduce the dose or space it out. Instead of 2 hourly, you can take 3 hourly. Rule number 3. Rule number 4, you must take long enough. So simple viral infections like a common cold, you can take for 3 days. I think it's sufficient, because if you follow these rules in the morning, if you start, by evening, you'll already start to feel better. Okay. But for serious infections like COVID, you will have to do this until full recovery. That's the dose of vitamin C.
Okay, Dato, the next question is rather a controversial question. Uh, is it
Okay.
advisable to go for vaccination? And what are the side effects of vaccination?
Yeah, it is not, I'm not saying sure whether I should say it's controversial, but it has become such a sensitive discussion. And so how shall I address this? Okay. Now, I'm trying to give you all that information about you protecting yourself. Okay. And then I've told you how to reduce the side effects. Whether you vaccinate or you don't vaccinate, the choice is entirely yours. I'm not here trying to dissuade you or persuade you from taking vaccines. But I can give you some idea about vaccines. You see, there are 2 types. We have always known traditionally 1 type of vaccine. No, actually 2 types traditionally. So these are the vaccines that you talk about: smallpox or chickenpox or hepatitis A, B, and C, and so on. All those vaccines There are two types. One is made, they are made from either a dead bacteria or a virus, like dead bacteria, tuberculosis, or dead virus. So what happens is when you put it into your body, the body will recognize it as a foreign or pathogen, and the body will mount an immune reaction. So, and of course, it doesn't have to kill because a virus is already killed or it's attenuated. So whatever happens, the immune reaction sets in. But part of the immune reaction, immune cells, is called the memory cells. So they will remember this particular pathogen. You will have no entry next time. If you enter, the body will react even faster, and it will even react even more strongly. So this is how the body protects itself from memory cells. So the primary incident, and then the body remembers through the memory cells. So these vaccines, uh, they actually they make your immune system produce antibodies. Okay, but of course, as I said, there are natural ways you can produce antibodies yourself. But if you want to protect, these vaccines are the traditional vaccines. Okay, and these are the vaccines, like, you want to that is how smallpox was eradicated. Polio was almost eradicated. These are the traditional vaccines, dead or life attenuated. Then the new vaccines that we see are the viral particles. That means we call them as RNA vaccines. So they actually known as mRNA because they carry a message to your cell. How the body reacts is because this viral, the message that is given to the cell is to make copies of these particles. So the body will mount an immune reaction. Um, so this is the newer way. So uh, it is new, and there hasn't been enough time for us to really understand what happens to the viral particles, or what will happen to us, those who inject. So this is still debatable. Some will believe that in order to protect humanity, everybody needs to be vaccinated. Others will have reservations. The choice is entirely yours. But um, to my knowledge, the live attenuated vaccines have been the traditional ones. So this is something new. Okay. Unfortunately, I have to stop it here because I'm sure all of you all know it's a very sensitive discussion. But I can help you to understand A to Z about how to be healthy. In fact, how to prevent. I said the most important thing about health is prevention. How do you prevent from getting infected in the first place? Okay.
Okay, Dato', next question. How long to expose to morning sun, vitamin D?
Okay. The morning sun, actually, sun as a healing, a source of healing. Um, it's a vast. We have not understood fully. Nothing exists without light, and light is energy. And I said we are just energy beings. So the sun has many benefits. It's not just vitamin D. Vitamin D helps you to produce melatonin, the sleep hormone, and that resets your sleep-wake cycle, which is disturbed in most of us because we sleep late and we use a lot of handphones and computers which emit blue light, the EMF that destroys your sleep hormone and your energy hormone called cortisol. The next morning, it wreaks havoc in your body. So in order to benefit the sun, this is why if you look at traditional ways of yoga, there is always a series of exercise in yoga called sun salute. And many cultures worship sun as God. And I'm sure Hinduism does, a lot of Mexican culture. It's there, Egyptian culture, it's being worshipped as the sun. Why? because don't think that we, with all the knowledge that we have and with all the technology that we have, we are smarter than the humans who lived in this planet a few thousand years ago. To me, they were far more intelligent than us, because sitting down in one spot, they knew all the 9 planets that go around the sun. And after the telescope, maybe 100 years, 50 years ago, we knew. We are discovering one by one, which was known to people many, many thousands of years ago. So they were very intelligent. They knew the value of sun. So if you want to harness the benefits of sun, two things. One is sun gazing. That means the morning sun, when the sun comes up 7, 6, 7, 7:30. If you look at the sun, if you don't want to look at it directly, you can look, just keep your head straight, let the sun rays touch your eyes, touch your retina. And at this time, it is better your feet touch the ground. So one is sun gazing, the other is grounding. It does a lot of benefits to tune up your body, as well as to discharge these 4Gs and 5Gs, and resets it recalibrates your health. But in order to make vitamin D, you need a stronger sun. So you need it. You need to be out around 9:30, 10, and of course it's hot, but that's the best time you can make. So how long do you stand out in the sun? At least 3 times a week. Um, For darker skinned people like me, we have to stand a bit longer. For fair skinned people, it is shorter. So the way to decide how long you need to be out in the sun is called, in medical terms, is called MED, minimum erythema dose. That means you have to be out in the sun until the skin becomes a little bit red or a little bit discomfort. You feel the discomfort. It should be a bit red, or some people, they call it MMD, which is the darker skin. So you need to establish this first. How long you have to be out in the sun? That means exposing your skin. How long you have to be out in the sun to get this, the change on the skin? So it's called MED or MMD. Doesn't matter. So either it's a redness or darkness. Then it don't go and sit out in the sun until this every day. This is where you get toxic effects of sun exposure. Say if you need, say, 1 hour to get this, so 60 minutes, right? What you need is 30% less, or at least half of that. That's all you need. So if initially it takes 40 minutes, you can even half the dose. You just expose yourself to 20 minutes. And you need to do about 3-4 times a week if you can't do it every day. Because each time you sit until the sufficient time, but 70% of your skin must be exposed. How you do, you decide. Okay. So if you do this, then you make about 10 to 20,000 units of vitamin D in the body. So it's different time. Yeah, that morning sun is best. Okay.
Dato', next question. I'm giving my kids buffered vitamin C every day. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfectly okay. Vitamin C, buffered vitamin C, it gets absorbed very fast. So it's preferable in an empty stomach. The tablets, because buffered vitamin C is just ascorbic acid, but almost always it doesn't cause any discomfort to the stomach, but it gets absorbed very fast. Most of the preparations of buffered vitamin C, 1 teaspoon should be, you check your label, ingredient list, 1 teaspoon full scooped should be giving you 4 grams. So you have to divide the dose according to the age of the child. So it should be taken in an empty stomach. I take mine, buffered C, in the morning in an empty stomach, and I take another dose before I sleep when my stomach is empty. In between, I take the tablets, because you need, when you eat, you got to take the tablets, which is sodium ascorbate.
Okay, Dato'. Next question. Dato', can elaborate more on magnesium towards our body?
Magnesium we should get from green vegetables. Okay. Now the vegetables can be green, not because of magnesium. but because of potassium. Because if you look at the usual fertilizer is called NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. I think this is unfortunate. Potassium is extremely useful for you, but unfortunately, when you use potassium only, it it gets absorbed by the vegetables in preference to magnesium. That means you become the plants will become more magnesium deficient. So this is how you get mostly, but because it's unless you grow your own vegetables on organic soil without pesticides, and the soil must not have been sprayed with pesticides for 10 years at least, almost all of us are deficient. So if you want to recognize some of the symptoms of magnesium deficiency, muscle cramp is probably the first sign. Muscle cramp can be migraine, can be tiredness, it can lead to high blood pressure, it can give you painful menses, it can cause premature deliveries, and the list is very, very, very long. So magnesium does, so in our body, we call them biochemical reactions because everything depends on spark. Okay, one signal to another signal, there's a spark. So this, we call it biochemical reaction. Magnesium, just one mineral, does about 800 types of biochemical reactions in the body. So it facilitates many, many, many reactions, including activating our hormones. So one of the most important factor that is mostly not understood is that if you can take vitamin D, but in order to get it activated, the last step, you still need magnesium. So that's why when patients ask me what are the supplements they should take, I always tell them, okay, look at it as a basic supplement and special. So one of the basic supplement that I advise is magnesium. I don't put it as special. Okay, so magnesium is very important. And for those who exercise, you sweat, you lose magnesium and potassium. The more you exercise, the more deficient you can become. See, one of the reason why marathon runners suddenly collapse and die is very likely to be magnesium deficiency. Because they usually don't understand, so they don't supplement. So when you lose a lot of magnesium, I said muscle cramp is one of the early signs. If you get it in your leg, you call it muscle cramp. If you get it in your heart, heart is also a muscle, we call it heart attack. The difference is just the name, but both are muscles caused by magnesium deficiency. The same thing happens with badminton players, football players, magnesium deficiency. It's also extremely important for diabetes. Almost all conditions will require magnesium because most of us are deficient anyway. So sorry, instead of taking magnesium, the mistake people are making, especially women, they take iron and calcium. They take tons of calcium. That is, in my opinion, is extremely dangerous. Do not supplement with calcium and iron and copper unless your doctor has tested and proven you to be deficient. And most times when calcium is low in the body, you still don't need to take calcium. The calcium is low in the blood because the calcium cannot be absorbed from the intestine unless you have adequate amounts of vitamin D. And most of us, unless you supplement, we are deficient in vitamin D because we don't go out in the sun. You don't make your own, you don't supplement. Where's going to be the vitamin D in your body? So how are you going to get calcium absorption? And when the calcium is not getting absorbed, of course, the level will be low. So women tend to make this mistake. And calcium is prescribed routinely in pregnancy. I don't. I don't even prescribe iron in pregnancy unless a mother is low in iron. And they drink a lot of soy products because for various reasons, weight loss and calcium, but don't get fooled. And too much of soy products will decrease your thyroid hormones as well as give you too much of female hormones, both of which are not so good. Okay.
Dato, next question is something you have addressed before. Would you like to skip the question? I'll just read out. What is your advice on COVID vaccine? now that there is so many adverse effect being manifested?
Get that information about, whether there are side effects and whether it is safe to take. But then, of course, you should know if you have allergies or if you are beyond certain age with medical conditions, then it's not advisable to take. So actually, vaccine in by all means, it should be protecting. But there are people who are not there are conditions where you are not advised to take. Breastfeeding pregnancy, we understand. Less than 18 years, they don't have to take. See, very old people, because we are afraid of the consequences. And if you have allergies or anaphylaxis before.
Dato', next question. Can too much vitamin cause harm on the kidneys and liver?
Uh, what vitamin? Can you
They
ask the?
didn't specify. Um,
Okay. Of course, too much of anything is not good. Yeah, even though it is helpful, too much is not good. But I can make two exceptions where I know for sure, or at least the studies so far show, if you know where to look for it, that do not cause problems other than because you might be wasting, even at extremely high doses, or maybe three. The more I think, the more numbers come in. Number one is vitamin C. No known toxicity even at extremely high doses. Okay. Um, the first treatment of COVID that proved the efficacy of vitamin C was done in China in Shanghai University, somewhere near Wuhan. There were 52 patients who were given intravenous vitamin C. These COVID infected patients in ICU, that means they were quite sick. So what was recorded, they gave about 24 grams, if I'm not mistaken. None of them died, and they all left the hospital 5 days earlier. So vitamin C can be given in very high doses. The sicker you are, the more vitamin C the body demands, because every pathway of repair needs vitamin C. So vitamin C has no effects on any organs, especially don't worry about kidney. Anytime you read that a lot of vitamin C causes, high dose vitamin C causes kidney stone, I would like to see that evidence. I don't think though there is a single evidence so far to show that vitamin C causes kidney stones. In fact, it can help to reduce the risk of kidney stones, especially the oxalate stones. So this is the truth. This is the fact. So number one is vitamin C. Number two, so vitamin C, I tell the patients, the more you take, the better. Number two is magnesium. No known side effects other than if you take too much, you can get diarrhea. Sometimes you have patients who feel tired if you give them too much vitamin magnesium, because it causes vasodilatation. That means the blood pressure. If you give it to a high patient with high blood pressure, this is a beauty because it brings down the blood pressure. So it causes dilatation of the blood vessels. So sometimes when the blood uh, stagnates in the legs more, they can feel tired. But this is not common. Diarrhea is what you should watch for. So if they get diarrhea, so both vitamin C in excess or in high doses, sorry, not excess, high doses, and magnesium can cause diarrhea. So if they are on both, then you reduce one and observe, and then you can do the same for the other. So that's two. And the third nutrient that would be very useful, even at high doses, no known toxicity, is the sleep hormone called melatonin. This is a natural sleep hormone which we should produce. Unfortunately, we don't produce for various reasons. If you all are interested, we can always discuss this at some point. Melatonin you make if you get especially sun exposure, or if you optimize your vitamin D levels, you should make. But aging people, we all are unable to make sufficient. So this is the reason for disturbed sleep. And remember, sleep is so vital. Deep sleep is very, very vital for health, because only during deep sleep at a particular period of the night can you repair and rejuvenate yourself. So we all need to repair. We all need to rejuvenate. That happens only when you sleep and when you are in deep sleep. And if you don't produce enough of the sleep hormone called melatonin, you do not repair. Every time you eat, you breathe, you walk, you sit, and you whatever you do, exercise you do, there's always damage to the body. And these are minute damages that can be repaired. Body is very intelligent. It always repairs, provided you give it a chance. So the repair takes place at night in deep sleep. So these three, C, magnesium, melatonin, as much as I know, have no known side effects, even in extremely high doses. Some vitamins you shouldn't take high doses, extremely high doses, like vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. But from what is generally recommended and to what is good for optimum health, there is a huge difference. Okay. What is generally recommended is 1000 units of vitamin D. Okay. Now, we had a lecture yesterday where the evidence was presented, even at 30,000 units a day, there's no known toxicity. So there's a big difference of what is recommended and what is for optimum dose. So, but generally vitamin E, vitamin A, D, E, and K, these are fat soluble vitamins. We don't recommend in very high doses. You need optimum doses, but not too much. Okay.
Dato', next, among the three vaccines available, is the inactivated Sinovac the safest to take?
There are two such vaccines. One is from China, Sinovac. The other one is from India, Covishield or Covishield. These two follow the old technology, like what I mentioned.
Dato', next, there's a thought that a certain peptides, such as thymosin alpha 1 and thymosin beta 4, can also be used to increase the immune system by enhancing the production of T cells. What is your take on this?
Thymosin, it's actually from the gland called this thymus, which is behind your chest bone. If you see ancient way of exercising after Tai Chi, Qigong, or yoga, they tap the chest to stimulate your thymus gland. Don't think thymus is inactive. Even in old age, it can be active. What is needed for the thymus gland to remain active? Vitamin D and melatonin. So one is a sunlight vitamin, the other is a darkness hormone. Both are critical. I mean, of course, thymosin, 1 alpha, all these things are not easily available, and they are also expensive. Now, remember, when you have an epidemic or pandemic, okay, what actually makes a difference is something that is cheap and it's available easily, even to in the remote areas. So if you look at it that way, vitamin C is easily available. So is vitamin D. Even melatonin has been used, but it's not commonly available. Not doctors also not many know about it. But there is something very interesting I can tell you, but then this needs a lot of explanation. I don't think time will permit. It's called hydrogen peroxide. You can actually buy an inhaler, and it's like, the nebulizer for asthma. So hydrogen peroxide is very cheap. It will cost you 1 or 2 ringgit, and you can nebulize it. Also works. There are many things that work, but whatever it is, it should be simple enough and cheap enough and accessible. So in that aspect, if you use vitamin C and D, even magnesium, it does the same function of stimulating your T cells. But I'm not saying thymosin doesn't work. Of course it helps, but it's expensive, not easily available. Okay.
What is the type of food you should take to get magnesium? I think Dato' addressed this just now as well.
Green vegetables and nuts, provided the vegetables are organically grown on a fertile soil.
is there enough dosage of vitamin C and D with our daily food and fruits intake?
Nope. Uh, of course, vegetables, they have a small amount. We should get our sufficient amounts of vitamin C from fruits. Lemon maybe, provided is organic. Fruits, provided the fruits ripe on the tree and is plucked and eaten fresh. Unfortunately, you don't find such fruits, not even the local ones. So supplementation makes sense.
Dato, next, glutathione, is this a supplement we need to consume? How and where can we obtain the supplement?
Okay. Glutathione, there are different types. Of course, you have to take, because I told you, we all make, but the demand has increased so much that we don't make enough. And having adequate amounts of glutathione scientifically. Now, if you go into search web like PubMed, okay, PubMed, that's a search website we use, even doctors, we all use to search for answers. There are more than 100,000 scientific papers published on vitamin C and glutathione, the benefits. So you can buy glutathione as a molecule, but it's not advisable because it's a big molecule, difficult to get absorbed. And the safer way of taking it is by taking the individual units we call amino acids. There are 3 amino acids that make glutathione. It's better you take this preparation of all the 3 amino acids in the right ratio for your body to make its own glutathione. So in this way, generally you'll feel, people who are low will feel the difference in terms of energy within 2 weeks, better skin. It helps in many ways. So this is available at the end of this session. If anybody wants to know where to source, because my intention is not to speak about any particular company or any particular product. Don't get me wrong. That's not the purpose. But if you want to know, you can always ask one of the coordinators. They can give you the answer.
Okay. Dato, next question from Doctor. I received an info about New Heal C encapsulated powder 150 mg. How much to take this New Heal C compared to like normal liposomal C?
I try not to talk about a particular company, but since you asked, and that's why this is a liposomal vitamin C. It is enough if you take 150 milligram twice a day, just as a maintenance regular dose. But of course, as I mentioned, if you are not well, you have to take higher dose and more frequently. But that's the beauty of doing a liposomal preparation. It's just 150 twice a day.
Okay, Dato, is there a way to slowing down the process of thymus atrophy that will suppress the immune system, especially for elder people?
One of the very important factor is sun exposure. I mentioned to you just now about vitamin D. Supplementing is very important. Unless as you age, we don't make enough vitamin D, even with sun exposure. And there are 2 things, please remember. Those who are taking statins or cholesterol lowering drugs will always have low levels of vitamin D, and we are going to kill ourselves. Because vitamin D is made from cholesterol. If you lower your cholesterol, you lower your vitamin D. The reason why cholesterol goes up, especially in the presence of infection and aging people, is because it defends you. Don't be mistaken. Number 2, a lot of surgeries are done on gallbladders. Gallbladders are removed. Very common nowadays, cholecystectomy. When you remove your gallbladder, you do not have bile during meals. Your vitamin D cannot be absorbed, the oral form. So maybe you take the drops. But generally, if you remove your gallbladder, you become deficient not only in D, in all other fat-soluble vitamins that I mentioned. So this definitely will add to the problem. So when you don't get sunlight, or you don't make enough D, you don't have enough melatonin, you can't make as you age. So these 2 are very important. And remember, generally for us to age gracefully, to slow down aging, to reverse aging, to enjoy optimum health, the diet with low carbohydrate is important. So we will discuss it next webinar. What is important is the type of carb you eat, how much you eat, and when you eat. That way you'll protect yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Datuk, next question. How much of glutathione or NAC orally to take before vaccination?
Glutathione, actually, the standard, the preparation that I mentioned to you, once a day is sufficient. I mean, because it stays in the body and extra is stored and it is used. I mean, the production of glutathione will be increased as and when necessary. But during crisis time like this, if you want to take twice a day, is sufficient. But NAC is just one of the amino acids. So it's cysteine, but what the preparation with 3 amino acids would be better. So if you want to take only NAC, then it's the same. You double up the dose for a few days before and few days after the vaccination.
Is it safe enough to take higher dosages of vitamins after one has taken the current vaccine?
Yeah, of course, because there is no drug interaction. There are no contraindications. So it is safe.
Source of food for glutathione.
You can get the amino acids even from proteins, eggs, meat. But what matters is the right ratio, the amount of the 3 amino acids present in your body at any one particular time. And preferably if there is also a carrier molecule or a mineral like selenium that activates glutathione.
Datuk, from Dr. Cheryl, she would like to thank you for the series. My whole family are also enjoying listening in and finally can understand the work we do.
Thank you very much. Namaskaram.
I'm a diabetic patient and I take BP pills and also blood thinning pills due to a stent in my heart. Can I take vaccine?
I am actually, to be honest, I have not seen the list that is given of conditions that would actually contraindicate. If you are a diabetic, if you have heart disease, if you are already on drugs, my advice would be to go through the list of contraindications and see if it is safe for you to take, if it is mandatory or if it is necessary. At least you can take the precautions that I mentioned.
Okay. Datuk, do you need to take vitamin D together with vitamin K?
Yes, because vitamin K is another very important vitamin that is also necessary to activate vitamin D, like magnesium. So many of us don't even know that there is a vitamin called vitamin K, but it's very, very important for not only bone health, but to protect you from heart attacks and calcification, deposition of calcium outside the bones. So it's good to take the two together. Yeah.
Okay. Is it true that vector-based messenger RNA, mRNA, is believed to be more effective in producing memory cells compared to the inactivated virus?
In memories, I don't have any knowledge of that. I don't, sorry.
Okay. How do we determine the value and frequency of exercise, including diet, in our daily life?
Sorry, the question again, value?
How do we determine the value and frequency of exercise, including diet, in our daily life?
Exercise, please don't overdo because they also create free radicals, but they are very vital. 3 to 4 times a week is generally sufficient. If you want to do more, that's up to you. I exercise 6 days a week. I have actually stopped exercising on Sunday because of domestic request. So one day I have to rest, which makes sense as you grow old. Older, not old. The type of exercise I always recommend are these Tai Chi, Qigong, or yoga, fit into a different category. Brisk walking or hiking, and do weight-bearing exercise. That's all you need. That's all you need. In my opinion, these 3 are important. But in order to keep yourself with robust health, read about HIIT, high intensity interval training. That means it's like sprinting. You sprint for 100 meters or 50 meters Then you jog slowly, then sprint again, jog slowly, sprint again. So these sprintings are very, very vital to rejuvenate us, and it can reverse aging as well. As far as diet is concerned, we'll cover in the next webinar. It's going to be about what is a low carb diet, what carbs you can eat, what is intermittent fasting, what is water fasting, and all that.
What should we do to treat migraine naturally and to prevent it?
Migraine is can be a food allergy. You need to identify if there are any food that cause. It can be dairy products, can be peanuts. That's food. That's food allergy. If you keep a food diary, you might be able to pick up the culprit. Number two, magnesium deficiency. You need to supplement yourself with magnesium. And women who have migraine, especially just before menses, could be progesterone deficient. Okay.
Yeah, Dato, the next question. 1 second, Dato. Okay. Is it advisable for someone who is 85-year-old with medical problems to take vaccine? The COVID.
I don't think that this age, it is also, I think one of the contraindication is this age. Very senior people with medical problems, I think the government also does not recommend.
What is the suggestible dose of vitamin D for 8-year-old kid?
Can take anything between 2 to 4,000 or up to 6,000, because adults we need to take about 10,000 a day, 10 to 12,000. So 8 years can take at least half of that. Yeah.
Okay. Why some old women, when start taking melatonin, have more sleep disorder?
More sleep disorder. Two things. One is, no, I don't think it aggravates the sleep disorders. They may not be getting the desired results. It could be because of underdosing or overdosing. So they have to adjust the dose. Or if they take, some patients, if they take vitamin D and melatonin together at night. Now, I don't find it a problem. I take it together because of convenience. I advise my patients to take it together. But of course, it also makes sense to take vitamin D during the first thing in the morning, because it's a sunlight vitamin and melatonin is a darkness vitamin. So sometimes when patients combine, then it could be a problem. And if they still have the problem, I would suggest they add magnesium. Okay. If it is still a problem, I will suggest check all other hormones.
Okay. Dato, one who is taking multivitamin, is it sufficient to replace with just vitamin C?
No, multivitamin has many other vitamins and minerals, and the good ones that they have many ingredients, including some very, very useful herbs. So you cannot, although multivitamin should have vitamin C, the dose would not be sufficient for optimum health. So you still have to take extra C.
Dato, does the Russian vaccine use the old technology?
No. The Sputnik one, no. That is a DNA vaccine, not even an RNA vaccine.
Vitamin C for G6PD deficiency patient, what is the dose? I had an experience given 1 gram BD. The patient has diarrhea.
Diarrhea is not a G6PD reaction. G6PD is if there is a problem, your red cells tend to lyse, and you have jaundice, or you become anemic, and sometimes you end up with kidney problems. It is not common. Theoretically, you have to test people before giving vitamin C, not the oral dose. Oral dose, we don't test for G6PD deficiency. If someone wants to take intravenous vitamin C, high doses, we are supposed to check G6PD deficiency, because it could be a potential problem. But 1 gram, not that I know of. It could be because their gut is not healthy. It could be a healing reaction, or they may have a lot of fungus in the gut. 1 gram can't even cause diarrhea in a child. If they have, then there is some other problem.
Okay. When I jog, I used to get leg cramps in the calf. Could it be due to magnesium deficiency?
Certainly.
Dato, how can we effectively reduce or minimize immunosenescence in elderly people, since a weaker immune system, mostly in older people, will inhibit the genetic cleansing of senescent cells?
Then you will have to keep hearing these webinars, because this is what I like to do. I love teaching, and I share, because nothing is my own. All this knowledge I gain from someone else, so I don't mind sharing. But then every lecture, every webinar will be addressing some of the very important aspects of immunosenescence. So one of the most important aspect of immunosenescence is don't allow the body to age faster. How do you do that? These are called pillars of health, and each one of these we can address. Diet, especially a low carb diet, balancing your hormones, which is absolutely critical for health and rejuvenation, slowing down aging. Replace all the deficiencies of vitamins, minerals, omega-3 fatty acids, and so on. Adequate sleep, manage your stress well, keep your body alkaline, not acidic. Make sure your immune system, your detoxification system, your antioxidant system are robust. Okay. Exercise, spiritual health, social connectivity, all these are including clean water, alkaline water, hydrogen water. All these are pillars of health. If you address each and every one of them as much as you can, you may not be able to do 100%. Then you address not only immunosenescence, you address systemic senescence. Why talk about only immune system? You want no other organs to also age faster. You can prevent, you can reverse premature aging.
Dato, next, how many safe dose IVC for patient who had insufficient kidney problem? Only had 30% of it.
Uh, Depends on the conditions that you treat. You can take it as long as until the condition is reversed. So it all depends on the type of problems that you're treating and the dose that you use, the frequency. Vitamin C is always about dose, 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 frequency, 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 frequency. And the more severe the condition, the higher the dose that is required. So there is no one size fit all dose for vitamin C. I believe it's the same for everything else, including hormones. So depending on the seriousness of the condition you're treating.
There's also another question, Dato. Is 1600 mg liposomal vitamin C sufficient to take?
I'm not sure why you need, no, at least don't take it as a single dose. You can take at least twice a day. Vitamin C, I believe at least twice a day, even if it is a liposomal. But if it is, you don't need so much of, if it is liposomal, you don't need 1600 milligrams. You can be good with much lower dose of vitamin C. Okay. If it is liposomal.
Okay. Dato, any special advice for vegetarian who doesn't take eggs? And he says, thank you. It's a very informative lecture.
Difficult. If you are, if you can tolerate whey protein, I'll suggest, because at least that can give you some proteins, essential amino acids. That's there. The problem with us vegetarians is this, some of the problems. Let me just address it quickly. You can ask me again during the webinar on diet. When you're a vegetarian, it's difficult to have the satiety. So we tend to eat more, and most of the more is carbohydrates. That's why you see vegetarian diet is supposed to be a healthy diet. Now, I'm not saying don't be a vegetarian. I'm not saying be a non-vegetarian. What I'm giving you is understanding. Okay, you need the essential amino acids and proteins. So if you tend to eat more carbs, then you get problem. That's why you see a lot of vegetarians have diabetes and hypertension and obesity, because there is no satiety. At least you can add virgin coconut oil or olive oil or ghee to your food, so that gives you the satiety. Number two, we have lost the culinary art, the art of cooking, of mixing the beans and peas and various other pulses that gives you a complete amino acid for your protein, because your immune system, your hormones and everything is made of protein. So vegetarians, if we stick to the current vegetarian diet, we could become deficient in some of the important amino acids. So you can Google what are the essential amino acids, and you can also check the staple food that you're eating if it covers them. You may want to reconsider eggs, but make sure at least you have enough amino acids.
Okay, Dato, I'm taking vitamin C with bioquercetin phytosome. Is that okay for current situation?
Yes, because quercetin is supposed to enhance the effectiveness of vitamin C.
Is it recommended to stop blood thinners on the day of vaccination?
Mm, not so sure, but then a COVID infection, I'm talking about COVID infection, okay, SARS-CoV-2 infection. It causes thickening of the blood. That's why blood thinners are given to seriously ill patients, because there's a lot of systemic clotting. But I'm not sure whether vaccine causes any problems with clotting. Not sure.
Okay, Dato, any vitamins recommended for knee pain? Kindly
The
advise.
most important would be to avoid what causes knee, if you are talking about osteoarthritis, avoid gluten. This is the difference between us and native people who don't eat gluten. They don't have osteoarthritis. Simple rule. Simple rule. And some of you would have heard me saying this many times, especially when I see young people limping with pain in the knee. It's very sad. Just realize for a moment. Look at the difference in the diet between you and the native. Number two, if you want to repair the cartilage and the ligaments, two very important things: glutathione and vitamin C are very important, and it's good to take vitamin D as well.
Okay, Dato, Mr. Naidu says, thank you, Dato, for this valuable info for better understanding of optimum health. It was a simple way of presentation. Okay, next, Dato. When kids need to take vitamin D, is it at night or at morning?
Um, Vitamin D is, if you look at how it should be taken, although I don't have problem, and my patients have never told me there's a problem in taking it at night, but it's all right, or maybe it's better to take it in the morning, because it's a sunlight vitamin. So that's one. The second point is, I don't routinely advise children to take vitamin D. The reason is because they can very easily make their vitamin D. My mother used to put us all out in the sun as soon as we were born. That's why she tell, and this is what I saw happening to my younger brothers and sisters. In the morning, we are out for 10 to 15 minutes, something on our head to cover the eyes, naked, out in the sun. And so this is what parents should practice to the newborns. And children should be out in playing in the sun. I've told school headmasters, let the children play out in the sun at least for half an hour after 9 a.m. So the physical education time must be changed in order to have healthier children. So they should be able to make their own. If for some reason we are so stuck with our children who should score 20 A's and 50 A's and go to school so early, which you can't change, but tuition after tuition, they don't get any sun exposure. Young children, 1 to 4 years, you can give 1,000 units. No, 1 to 2 years, 2 years and above, you can give 2,000 units. Older children can take 4,000 units, but it's better to make them produce their own.
Okay, Dato, is it safe for a dialysis patient to have high dose of IV vitamin C?
In my opinion, yes, doesn't cause any problems except for better health.
Okay. Mm, is Covaxin Indian vaccine safe? I think Dato have addressed this before.
I've addressed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. For a CKD patient, is magnesium, vitamin D, and vitamin C safe?
Vitamin C is very safe. What is unfortunately not safe is potassium. Potassium is so useful for health. Every time somebody has a heart problem, hypertension, or irregular heartbeats, or muscle twitching, these are all signs of potassium deficiency. So when you have irregular heartbeat, we call it atrial fibrillations and ventricular fibrillations and all this. And even, say, for example, even the pacemaker, it's a sign of potassium deficiency. But in kidney patients, potassium is usually high, so we don't use. Magnesium is useful, but you got to start at a much lower dose. So if the standard capsule is 500 milligrams, maybe you want to start at 250. And those who are on dialysis, after all, they go in dialysis and remove most of the toxins every other day. Vitamin C, no problem. Vitamin D, even if you give a higher dose, um, uh, of course, patients with kidney and liver problems, they are very low in vitamin D often, because your activation of vitamin from cholesterol to vitamin, the steps, first activation is in the liver, second activation is in the kidneys. So if you have organ damage, then you won't produce. So you can use the dose, but it's always better to monitor the blood levels. So the first level should be taken in a month after giving vitamin D. And after that, maybe every 2 to 3 months. Just monitor so that you're not giving too much.
Okay. Dato, is it necessary to take vitamin C with bioflavonoids?
You can take, because bioflavonoids are natural pigments that are available in fruits and vegetables. That's why it's always good to eat colorful fruits and vegetables. They are also antioxidants besides many other functions, yes. But they do not replace the effectiveness of glutathione and vitamin C as an antioxidant.
If you are taking ivermectin, can you also take COVID vaccine? Does it affect the efficacy?
Sorry, oh,
If you are taking
ivermectin.
ivermectin, yeah.
I have come across studies in countries like Brazil, Japan, few countries, they have had phenomenal success with ivermectin. Actually, we give it to our dogs, isn't it? To treat their worms, ivermectin. So it's supposed to be extremely beneficial. And that was also given, if I'm not mistaken, to the former US president, the famous Trump. But I'm not sure whether a combination is safe or is necessary. I'm not sure. But ivermectin has been proven to be safe.
Dato, if you were forced to take the vaccine, would you prefer a Chinese Indian one because it uses the traditional method?
Let me just address it this way. If you want to be comfortable, then it should be something that has been in use for a long time. That could be more acceptable. At least we know how it is made and the technology, and yeah, how our body will adapt to it.
Is it necessary to take no, Dato, this I think you have addressed. From Dr. Frank Schellenberger, we already learned a lot about mitochondrial efficiency. And from you tonight, at least we learned so much about systematic senescence. It's very enlightening, highly appreciated. Thanks a lot from Dr. Sofian.
This Dr. Sofian is from Indonesia.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the participants who asked such intelligent questions that the speakers are always taken aback. Sometimes they are lost for answers. So I'm always very happy to see doctors who have educated themselves so well to take care of their own health and their loved ones and their patients. And end of the day, I always say this: the role of a doctor, or the duty of a doctor, the sacred duty, is to heal. And if you want to be a healer, you have to understand the root cause of the disease. And Dr. Sofian is a brilliant example. Namaskaram, Sofian.
If we don't take glutathione but NAC, is that enough? I take 1200 mg NAC per day.
I have taken NAC before. I've tried various preparations. In my opinion, NAC, of course, is cheaper. If it is available, please go ahead and take. But if you want a better formulation, for better benefits, which you can actually see even on the skin after a month or two, would be the complete amino acid formulation.
If patients on blood thinners, especially aspirin, can they still take vitamin D combined with K2? Do they need any monitoring?
Vitamin K actually promotes blood clotting, but it doesn't cause excessive clotting. Don't be mistaken. But of course, you are giving aspirin because one believes that it's the thicker blood that causes the problem, which is, in my opinion, not the case. If you want to take something, then you can also have the same benefits of blood thinning from omega-3 essential fatty acids and curcumin. But if you give vitamin K for the benefits of K for cardiovascular health and reduction in renal stones and calcification outside the bones and cancers, then please monitor the blood profile.
Dato, another question related to vaccine. Would you, Dato, prefer a Chinese or Indian vaccine for yourself if you're forced to take?
I'm going to say the same thing. Maybe if you meet me in private, I can give you a better answer.
I think that's about it, Dato.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yamuna, why do I see this chat as 75? That means there were 75 questions, is it?
Yeah, Dato.
And the number doesn't go down as I answer.
No, it doesn't, Dato.
Because I wish it does, because in that case, at least I know how many more questions are left. So some of the questions I can take more time to address.
Okay,
well, if there are anything else, we can talk about it. Otherwise, give them a few more moments to think about anything they want to ask. If there are no more questions after the few minutes while I'm talking, so the next webinar, we will have it on Sunday next week. So those of you who are here, I want to talk about diet. And you can invite your friends, and the intention is nothing related to, I'm not saying all of you all take a bus and come down to my clinic tomorrow. No, it's a service to mankind to create better health. And whatever that you have learned, and if you feel this information is useful, please share. Because we are living in a very dangerous moment. Awareness about health, love for mankind, connecting to the Supreme, being a better person, looking inward for answers. All this matters a lot.
Dato, there's a question. 1 second. Dialysis patient had to go to an emergency after IV vitamin C. Can you explain why?
I don't believe it has got anything to do with vitamin C. If that patient has received an intravenous vitamin C, I believe it could be because of fluid overload. So maybe it was diluted in a larger amount of fluid, or the patient was infused with more fluids. That is the only possible explanation I can give.
Dato, a friend from Syria told me to look for whole food vitamin C and not to get vitamin C off the shelf. Any comment?
Well, the best way to have adequacy in terms of vitamins, minerals, and omega-3 fatty acids and iron, proteins, all that stuff that goes to make your body and keeps this engine running well. The best is, of course, from natural sources, from food, directly from food, or from sun exposure, all that. But of course, there are many other things that actually decline with aging, and they decline much earlier in us than our parents and our great parents. So this is why we are aging faster. But whatever that you can get from food, if you're able to, then of course it's a better way. But how many of us live and enjoy pristine water, pristine air, vegetables and fruits grown on volcanic soil? Don't be mistaken. If it is organic, it means that the fruits and vegetables have not been sprayed or have not been sprayed 100% with chemicals. But the soil can still be deficient. So even if you eat organic, doesn't mean that you are getting all the vitamins and minerals that you require. So I believe this is available to only the very privileged few, and there are few of them who understand COVID, even if they are not doctors, better than any doctors in this world. So there's a privileged few who can have access to vegetables and fruits grown on pristine soil. But if you're able to, it's better. If not, supplementation would be better. But do not fear, because now there is something called bioidentical. That means identical to what is available in nature. As long as something is made in the factory, even if it is made in the factory, the same thing applies to hormones. If they carry the same molecular structure as what exists in nature, it's called bioidentical. So in that way, it is still okay, because the body will use it as though it is natural. Use excess, it knows what to do. They are not drugs, and that is where the problem is. They are foreign to the body, and your body doesn't know what to do with so much of them, and constantly daily put into their body. They don't even get out of your body because they are foreign. So it's okay to take.
Okay. Dato, is magnesium glycinate or citrate is better?
Okay. Let me address it this way. The traditional teaching is, okay, for those who are not doctors, we are talking about this glycinate, citrate, and malate, and oxide, and all these are called carrier molecules, because we want the magnesium to enter our cell faster and better. Okay, so we tag them with carrier molecules. So these molecules enter easily, so they carry the magnesium along. Now, the primary purpose of supplement is to carry the parent molecule into your cell. So the carrier molecules, they have their own functions. Citrate has its own function, glycinate has its own function, malate has its own purpose in the body, but the amount that is added is small. So they don't do, in my opinion, they don't do a primarily a major function in the body, major benefit for that matter, though they are useful. So the primary focus is to get magnesium into the body. So in my opinion, it doesn't really matter as whether it is citrate or glycinate or malate. But I still prefer if it is a liposomal magnesium, because then you don't need all this as a primary carrier molecule, although it's going to be there, but that's not the importance. They are not important. What is going to be important is the magnesium. And in liposomal formulation, of course, the magnesium will get into the cell much faster without all these carrier molecules. And even if they are there, it doesn't really matter which form they are.
I think Yamuna has taken a break. So
Okay.
yeah, the next question is you can get most of these supplements from the pharmacies, example vitamin C, D, glutathione, etc. But the qualities may vary brand to brand. What are we supposed to look out for and when buying supplements from the pharmacies? Thank you for the wonderful and informative yet very simple session. This is from Mr. Amba.
Okay. It's now I'm saying this as as the information that I've received. Now, there was a study by the Canadian Health Ministry. This was many years ago, and I saw the book myself. They tested 500 supplements, and they wanted to assess the bioavailability. And of the 500 supplements, there were only about 6 that had the bioavailability of more than 80%, and some were in the region of 40-50%. But most of what I read and what is available in the pharmacy, they fall to a very low level of absorption. So that's one. The other one, if you want to look for a reputable company, then number one, you should actually search and see they actually contribute to better health. That means they should do their research, they should be publishing, giving you a lot of information, they should be publishing articles, maybe they can give you, they publish health magazines, so they carry a lot of very informative, what do you call, evidence-based medicine. So companies that actually spend time, that means they have the brains behind it. So they generally produce good quality supplements. So of the supplements that I remember from the first 500, after that, I think they have done 1,500 up to 1,500. So there are some supplements would be good because of the bioavailability. My preference can be different from yours. My preference is someone whose supplement is good, and also I need to depend on hundreds of types, maybe, because I advise patients so many conditions, and I need to tell them what to take for different conditions. And so one is life extension, then the other one is Douglas Lab, Source Naturals, USANA, and there are few like this that are good. But what I see, the rest of them, well, but the fact is, some people can only afford what's available in the pharmacy.
Okay. Dato, is it safe to give amino acid to patient with severely reduced kidney function?
One has to be very careful.
Okay.
You have to be very careful, and you have to monitor very, very closely. Maybe start at a very low dose. Maybe you want to do amino acid parameter to find out what actually, which amino acids they are deficient, and maybe replace only that. But a very close monitoring is necessary.
Dato, next question. Please summarize the COVID-19 diagnostic testings being done and your comments on them.
The positive test means that someone, the test is positive. Okay. Now, if you look at the number of people who are tested positive, for example, if you take the say 100 subjects have been tested positive, a vast majority of them will go through without even noticing that they had the virus in their body. Another significant number of them will have mild flu-like symptoms. And we know that the number of people who actually suffer and fall into a serious illness are very few. And these are the ones who are the elderly and those who have comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, cancer, immunosuppressed conditions. So this is the status of the positive test. But it also depends on how sensitive the test is. Sometimes if it is very sensitive, it can pick up a lot more cases.
Okay. I think, Dato, that's about it for the
Okay.
questions. We have taken
There's
all
one
the
more.
questions.
There's one more from Dr. Rulani, Indonesia. She asked if all types of magnesium is okay.
Sorry, Sati.
Is any type of magnesium okay?
All okay except if it is just oxide. If it is a combination, is okay because oxide is the least absorbed. But unless you have a preparation like a liposomal, then the oxide doesn't matter. But otherwise, oxide also is one of the supplements that causes diarrhea more often than the others. So you might be better off in choosing the other form like glycinate, citrate, malate, or a combination.
Okay. I think that's about it, Dato.
Okay.
So
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed. So for those who are willing, We'll meet again next week, and we talk about diet for better health. Okay.
Thank you, Dato. Thank you for the
Namaskar.
fruitful session, and thank you for